My emotionally abusive stepmother trespassed on my house, stole my kids' clothes, and tried to donate it. For context, I, 34 female, live in Brazil. I'm not sure how well other countries are being informed of this, but the state of Rio Grande do Sul has been going through a devastating flood that is engulfing entire towns and affecting thousands of people. My family doesn't live in Rio Grande do Sul, but we, like many others, are donating to the survivors. I live in an apartment with my husband, 37 male, and our children, 10 male and 6 female. A couple weeks ago, we organized some of our kids' older clothes to donate. My father and stepmother told me that they were donating their clothes as well and offered to stop by, pick up our clothes, and donate everything together. I agreed. The day of, I had an emergency at work. I left the clothes in 2 bags by the front door, gave my father the password to our place, we had a keypad lock and changed the code frequently, and asked if he was okay stopping by while I wasn't there. He agreed, but later told me he was busy and his wife would go instead. Sometime later, my stepmother texted me confirming she'd gotten the clothes. When I got back home, both bags were still there. I instantly got confused. I started pondering what clothes my stepmother had picked up, which led me to check my kids' closets. Sure enough, half my daughter's clothes were gone, as well as about a third of my son's. I called my father. Thankfully, they hadn't taken the donations anywhere yet, so I was able to get everything back. My stepmother explained she couldn't find the bags, so she just went to the closet and picked up whatever looked like it wouldn't fit them anymore. If anyone else had done this, I probably wouldn't be this upset. Sure, the bags were right by the door, but I've been inattentive before, it happens, but knowing my stepmother did this drives me mad in ways I can't describe. My relationship with my stepmother has always been bad. She was emotionally abusive toward me and my little sister when we were young. I could write a book about the damage she caused, but there's one particular part of the abuse that's relevant here. Early in her relationship with my father, she put on some weight. When she started making efforts to lose it, she decided the entire family needed to do so as well. She told me, then a preteen and only slightly overweight, and my sister, this started when she was 5, that we were obese, forcing us both into increasingly restrictive diets and tried to monitor what we ate at our mom's place. We were too young to understand what was actually going on, so my mom didn't realize how abusive the situation was until years later. From that moment on, our contact with our father, who joined in on the restrictions most of the time, and stepmother was mostly limited. We both managed to reconcile with our father, but the damage had been done. To this day, I have a complicated relationship with food. Years later, my stepmother was diagnosed with BPD. She's still in therapy and has apologized, but I never forgave her and I never will. I'm cordial with her, but only for my father's sake. She tried to make comments about my daughter's weight before, but me and my husband, and sometimes my father, always shut her down. Every time my stepmother buys her clothes, they are at least 2 sizes too big. We always exchange them. My daughter is actually small for her age, which only makes this more ridiculous. Looking at the clothes she tried to steal from my kids almost made me weep. Every single piece was either brand new or just fit them perfectly. Some of their favorite clothes were there. There was an astronaut onesie my daughter got for her birthday literally 2 weeks ago that she's obsessed with. 4 of her favorite dresses, some of her costumes, her ballet uniforms, and a few shirts she also loves were almost gone forever as well. She stole less from my son, but still took many of his favorites as well. I'm cutting contact with my stepmother. My husband agrees with me. I don't care how much therapy she's done or how much she seems to have improved. I don't want her anywhere near my family ever again. This was the last straw. I refuse to let her damage my children the way she damaged me. But I don't know how to talk to my father about this. We've both put a lot of effort into our relationship, and I don't want to lose whatever we still have. Update 1. I spoke to my father a few days ago to inform him that my family would be cutting ties with his wife. There's not much to say about the conversation itself, but we did have a small fight about it. From his perspective, I think it was more of an I'm upset fight than a I think I'm right fight, so it wasn't too hard to get him on my side. I'd written a draft of what I wanted to say, but I only used half of it. I focused on the facts first, and that's usually what works with my father. His wife raided my children's closets without permission and stole clothes they still wore and treasured. I also sent him a picture of the bags I'd left by the door, which proves she couldn't have walked into my apartment without seeing them. Another topic I brought up was the way his wife abused me during my youth and how I'd seen traces of that behavior toward my daughter. Over the years, my stepmother has apologized for how she's treated me more than once. I never bought it. She would say those things, but never change anything about how she acted. No amount of therapy, education, I don't think I mentioned this, but she's a psychologist, or conversations will ever be enough. Even if she somehow did change, she will always be the person who made me spend my entire youth hating everything about myself. The only reason I remained civil towards her was because my dad loves her for whatever reason. I was fine with her seeing my kids because it usually happened in environments I could control, but I never left her alone with them. Whenever she offered to babysit, I made it very clear that would never happen. I'd rather drive halfway across the city to leave them with my mother-in-law than allow my stepmother to tell my daughter she's fat. I sent pictures of the clothes she tried to steal to my father. He recognized many of them as pieces my kids had worn weeks prior, as well as ones he'd bought for them. The ballet uniform stood out. I still have no idea why she stole that one, as he'd paid for it and insisted it wasn't cheap. I also included pictures of the tags. While the ones on my son's clothes seemed mostly random, my daughter's read either 5 or 6. That is her size, but my stepmother has always refused to accept that. Once I told my father all of the above, he agreed that there was no way she'd stolen those clothes by accident, and it was best for me and my family to distance ourselves from her. I can tell he's hurt by this, but it's not me he's upset at. Even if it was, he knows my kids are my priority, and he can't change my mind on this. I allowed him to tell his wife. She's trying to contact me, but I've been ignoring her calls and texts. Before the week is over, I'll decide whether to block her or just keep her on mute. My children aren't dumb. They will notice her abuse, but I don't think they'll care as much as they were never close with her. She tried to play a grandma role with them, mostly just trying to push them to call her that, but it never worked. It's great to know my kids won't miss her. My husband and I are trying for a third and last, and I'm glad they'll never even meet her. I'm still very upset. As much as I've always known she would never change, stealing from my children was something I have never imagined she'd do, but I'm much better than I was last week, which is enough for now. Thank you all for your love and advice. You know, there was a part of me that really wanted to give the stepmother a little bit of grace at first in this story. Like, okay, yeah, she missed the bag, she walked in. Absolutely, that would happen to me. I mean, I've got ADHD. I literally the other day spent like 5 minutes looking for a little like blender cup that I had blended a sauce in that was on the middle of the counter. I looked past it 12 times at least. So I get that, but no, the going into the closet and just being like, well, I'll just grab clothes here. Like, even if you say like, okay, well, she didn't necessarily know that those clothes, and maybe she just can't remember what the actual sizes for the kids are, and she doesn't remember what's new. Like, even if you give her that much, she still should have called. She still should have waited. She was told to go over there and pick up bags of clothes. There were no bags that she saw, apparently. And so she just raided closets and took random clothes that she thought would work? No! You ask at that point. You don't just go, I'll figure it out. I'll give away some clothes. No. And then to hear the history of how she's been. And yeah, I don't hold it against this person for holding that grudge, because even though the stepmom has apologized, she's clearly not tried to make efforts to be better. Apologies without action are meaningless, folks. It just makes me so sad. And maybe this stepmom isn't the worst person, but she's still got some work to do. And frankly, I don't think that our OP is under any obligation to forgive this person after a lifetime of dealing with that. Story 2. Daughter threw a party without my permission, but her sister in the party got assaulted. Trigger warning, R. To start off everything, I'm a widow and have 3 children, but in this post I'll be focused on my 2 youngest daughters, Leah, 14 female, and Maya, 18 female. Fake names, of course. For little background, Leah was AR'd by 4 men back in December. How this incident occurred was that Maya threw a party while I was working the night shift, and 4 of the boys that were attending this party assaulted Leah. It's been devastating to say the least. Leah has lost all of her spark and quit cheer. Plus, on top of that, she opted out of her freshman year by just continuing to do courses online. She doesn't sleep in her room anymore, but with me and just wears my late husband's hoodies all day, and I feel so helpless as a mother because I don't know how I can help her. Throughout the investigations, a lot of things came out regarding Maya's part in this. She did not set up her little sister, however, I feel like she severely neglected her, and all of this could have been avoided if she just followed my rules. I never approved of the party. I left her in charge of watching Leah, and before you guys say, well, you're her mother, it's not her job to watch your kids, but the thing is, it was her job. I pay her really well to look after her sister while I work nights. It's been an agreement we had for years. Leah is not special needs in any way. The only thing I asked of Maya is that she makes sure her sister does her homework and gets to bed at a reasonable time. The men that assaulted Leah, Maya invited herself. She knew them personally and knew they had affiliates to gangs and did not care. Instead of what I found out in this investigation, she tried to put Leah with one of those boys, and Leah was not interested. This boy was harassing Leah all night, trying to get her to kiss him. Then Leah had enough and went to her room, and the moment Maya left the house to go to McDonald's, that same boy and his friends went up to my daughter's room and AR'd her. The worst part about this, to me, is that people that were at the party heard her yelling and did not do anything, but just assumed a couple was arguing upstairs. We didn't know what happened until the next morning when the party was over. Having her do an R kit was traumatizing for her and probably the worst moment as a parent for me. Then a couple weeks later, she tested positive for a curable STD. My baby has been broken ever since. Even though they did get those boys and all 4 pleaded guilty because they had evidence on their phone, but it's still so extremely hard for Leah right now. Maya, on the other hand, has been remorseful, and Leah has no animosity towards her and doesn't blame her, still loves her sister. But I don't know why, for me, I'm so angry at Maya, and I've been really trying to forgive her, but I can't as of now. I can't even look at her without not wanting to lash out. Her prom is next weekend, and I honestly couldn't care less. She tries to have conversations with me, but it's hard for me to show any interest in them. I don't hate my daughter. I still love her. But I just have a strong dislike for her right now. I've been reading self-help books and trying to learn how to address this properly. I feel like I can't open up to anyone about this in life. I guess this may be a cry for help as a mother. Edit. Thank you all for the feedback. The most repetitive question I'm seeing is if Maya still watches Leah. The answer is hell no. I don't trust her anymore, and it might take years to get it back. I'm on a leave of absence currently. Also, Leah is not in therapy as of right now. She expressed to me that she's not ready for that. I think after the sentencing, she might be open to it. Maya is also in therapy, but skips a lot of appointments. And I'm in therapy too, and it's been helping me remain calm through this situation and not want to lash out at Maya. But the number one advice I'm seeing here that I'm strongly considering is sending Maya to my parents' house for a while and get some space from her. Sorry, quick second edit. For the ones asking if Maya is in a gang, to my knowledge, she isn't. The most I've ever caught her doing was smoking some pot and vaping. I also don't want to think Maya would ever intentionally set her sister up to be brutally assaulted, so I'm leaning towards Maya genuinely being plain neglectful that night. Also, I feel like it would have come up in the investigation if she intentionally set up Leah. Also, the boy Maya was trying to set Leah up with was 17 at the time. He's 18 now, and the other 3 were grown men. Update. A lot has progressed in the past couple of days, and it would be only right to update you guys on what happened and get some advice from you guys regarding everything. But to answer multiple questions I received from my last post about why hasn't Maya been further punished, to put it quite simply, Maya was arrested the night of Leah's attack. She was charged with felony child endangerment and 2 misdemeanors. The judge was very nice to her and made her pay a $2,000 fine, 60 hours of community service, and 3 years probation. Plus, I took her car, but after this update, I maybe should have given her a harsher punishment, but back to the update. On Thursday afternoon, me and Maya got into a fight. The dispute happened because Leah came to me virtually upset and on the verge of tears, because 5 people messaged her that day expressing condolences about her attack. Leah has been very clear she doesn't want anyone that she knows to know that she was the victim of the attack. Upon further investigation, it turns out Maya told a group chat of 27 people that Leah was the victim. Leah vocalized to me how humiliated she feels and that she can't ever go back to school next year. I, of course, then go confront Maya about it. She kept saying I was overreacting and that Leah was being dramatic. I tried to reason with her to see how she hurt her sister, and she did not see the issue. She stopped me off mid-lecture from me and said, "Jesus Christ, Mom, you need to let her deal with this crap instead of always rushing to her defense. Leah's not different from other women in the world that deal with R. At least they don't make it their entire personality like she does. Also, she's fine. I literally overheard her talk to a boy on the phone last night." It just clicked for me at that moment that she was not actually remorseful at all and that I just witnessed her mask slip. I just responded with, "Pack your crap up," and that she will be staying with my parents until I allow her back. That's exactly what she did. But the next morning, I got a text from Maya to meet her at her therapist appointment that was later that day. Looking back, I wish I had never gone because her therapist, majority of the visit, only saw her point of view. But at the start of the appointment, it opened up with Maya apologizing and explaining her thought process of why she told her friends, and it was because she was venting. Plus, she didn't think of it as a big deal because it's a public case that was on the news, and Leah seems fine these days. Leah is listed as Jane Doe and not named nowhere, but I digress. We then get into the nitty-gritty of it all. Maya then tells me in front of the therapist that she feels emotionally neglected by me and that I never seem to care about her trauma when it comes to the situation. Which for her is having to stay in jail for a weekend and losing one of her friends, which is one of Leah's little Arists. I wish I could say I'm joking, but I'm dead serious. We were talking about that for the first 30 minutes. Her therapist was guilt-tripping me for not being more emotionally there for Maya and that I should try to see her mom since their father is no longer with us. But call me an awful parent, but I don't want to be emotionally there for Maya if it involves me having to help her mourn the friendship of the person that ruined her sister's life. The therapist was on one especially since she kept referring to what happened to Leah as an accident, or that Leah seems happier these days because that's what Maya has been telling her, when Leah is quite literally high off antidepressants and still scores extremely low on the mental health evaluation. But I finally just had an outburst. Feel free to skip over the next paragraph because there is a massive trigger warning. I get very graphic here, but I'm just reiterating what I said. What I said to both Maya and her therapist was, I think it's kind of disgusting that the two of you are refusing to acknowledge Leah's trauma in this and keep referring to it as an accident. You spent a week in jail while your sister was in the hospital suffering from something your friend did to her. Ironically enough, if you ever listen to Leah, she has said that a friend of yours was the most violent toward her during the attack and was the catalyst for the majority of injuries she sustained, including strangling her. So for you guys to sit here and berate me for not caring that you lost your friend because of something terrible your friend did to your sister is absolutely disgusting. My biggest regret right now is helping you obtain a lawyer. I should have let you rot in that cell and let you figure it out yourself. Maya started sobbing in the office at this point and saying it wasn't fair that I blamed her for what happened to Leah. She told me the only thing she was trying to do was have Leah come out of her shell because she kept hovering next to her at the party. The therapist then interjects and asks Maya how Leah responded to her when she apologized. Maya, in such a defensive manner, says, "Apologize for what? I didn't R her." Even the therapist was shocked when she said that at that point. I heard enough and I stood up, threw my hands up, and left. I haven't spoken to Maya since then, and this was Friday afternoon. Maya has been texting me and calling me, begging me to come home so she can apologize to both me and Leah. But I don't know at this point. I never thought I would be that parent that will have to go no contact with my daughter, but I don't know if I can stomach being around her. I can't trust her, and she's not remorseful whatsoever about what happened. A part of me wants to try to make it work for the sake of Leah because she asked yesterday if she ruined our family, and that broke my heart. Leah loves and looks up to Maya, and I don't think that she can comprehend at this time that Maya also failed her. I'm just stuck, or tell me if I'm wrong for not understanding Maya. I'm sorry for the not-so-happy update. Boy, I will be honest, I don't exactly know how to feel about all this. I feel the worst for Leah in this situation. I think that is just awful what she's been through, and anyone who has been through something like that. I will say, Maya certainly failed her. Maya screwed up. How much blame I put on Maya? I mean, I put the vast majority of the blame on the, people who assaulted Leah. Absolutely. Maya certainly screwed up, and I don't know, maybe the mother's initial reaction was too harsh and she should have been there for her a little bit more. But I don't know, the mom is allowed to be upset about that happening. God, if I was that mom, I would be livid. I don't know what I would do. I mean, I'm glad to hear that everyone involved is in therapy because everyone needs that. I will also say this for anyone who might be in a position similar to Maya. Just because you hear someone who is assaulted like that talking to a boy, or they say that they're doing good, no. Like, you don't get to just be like, oh, well, then they're fine and it wasn't a big deal. Sometimes people try and put on a brave face and try to continue with their life, but are still dealing with the most horrific thing that's ever happened to them, and it's eating away at them. You can't just make judgments like that. That's terrible. And also, I don't care if you think it's a big deal or not, which how can you not? But if someone says, hey, I don't want other people knowing about this, guess what? You don't get to make the call whether or not you tell other people about that. And if you do what Maya did, that is 100% Maya's fault, and she should be held accountable for that. And that's really all I have to say. Folks, just take care of yourselves out there.